Well, I never thought I'd say this, but I can't wait to kill Tongue Boss Guy. Howdy folks, and welcome back to another episode of Tyria Talk. My name is Richie Procopio, aka Otter, and this show is all about Guild Wars 2. Today is episode number 81, and today I'm going to be doing an episode that I've wanted to do for the past 3.5 years, and that is do an episode on raiding in Guild Wars 2, and not have it just be like speculation or like just a pie-in-the-sky wish. They actually announced there's raiding coming to Guild Wars 2 in Heart of Thorns. Now, back in January, when they was sitting in the theater at PAX South, when I was actually watching Colin Johansson and Mike O'Brien talk about the announcement for the expansion, the one thing I really wanted them to say was there's going to be raiding in Guild Wars 2. And there was just a little thing on the screen that said challenging group content, and we've been speculating and just wondering what that's been or what that's going to be for the past 8 months. And we finally, today at PAX Prime, they announced officially that raiding is going to be coming to Guild Wars 2. Now, we've had some clues about this. We know that they hired some raid encounter / AI encounter gurus at ArenaNet. We saw postings about that, and there were some hints about what this could be. But now we have some details, and I just wanted to pour over it with it. I'm going to say briefly, they also announced that Guild Wars 2 is going, the core game is going free to play as of right now, so people can sign up with free accounts, and they did put a whole bunch of restrictions in place to kind of combat the different problems associated with that. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about that though today, because the focus of this video is about raids, but it was a big enough news, and I might do another Tyria Talk about that topic as well, because there's a lot of info to unpack. So let's get into raiding in Guild Wars 2. There is a trailer, there is a blog post, and the heartofthorns.guildwars2.com also got updated with raiding information. All three of those things are great for picking out information. I'll put links in the description below so you can take a look. But here's some of the important bits of information. Raiding is going to be 10-player instanced adventures. So it's going to be, obviously Fractals and Dungeons was 5-person, and Guild Missions is kind of unlimited amounts, and World Bosses is kind of unlimited amounts of people. So raiding is 10 players in an instance, and you're going to be doing challenging content. You're going to be fighting bosses, and you're going to be doing epic dynamic events in there as well. We know that they're at for Heart of Thorns, there's going to be 3 wings to their first raid. The first wing is going to come out a couple of weeks after the Heart of Thorns expansion launches, so I'd expect sometime in November probably, since the release date, in case you don't know that news, the release date for the Heart of Thorns expansion is the end of October, October 23rd. It's October 23rd. I looked it up. I cheated. All right, so October 23rd is when Heart of Thorns comes out. A couple weeks later, the first wing is going to open up. Now, the wing is going to... and the reason why they do that, and this is common with other MMOs as well, when an expansion or something releases, they don't give you access to it right away. They want to give players time to experience the content, and in other games, they want you to level up and kind of get geared up. In Guild Wars 2, they want you to explore the expansion content and unlock some masteries and kind of get your group organized in that way. Learn the elite specializations that everyone's going to have time for some people maybe to level up Revenants. And then they're going to release the first wing. Now, the first wing's going to have 3 bosses in it, and they also said, and 1 epic event that will literally having you run somewhere. There's going to be some sort of chase involved maybe, or I don't know. They made some sort of, let me see exactly what they said. It's going to be the first raid. They're going to face 3 awesome, diverse, and very challenging bosses, as well as an epic event that will leave players literally running for their lives. So I guess you're going to try to escape something. Something's going to be happening, like Indiana Jones' big boulder chasing you or something. I don't know. But it sounds super exciting. And there's going to be 2 more wings that will open up over time as well. They also said that they want to make sure that raids becomes a part of the living world content that kind of releases in post the launch of the expansion. So we know that Guild Wars 2 comes out with a lot of content in between expansions. They had 40 or something releases in the first several years. and they're going to continue that trend after Heart of Thorns releases. And so it's not just going to be here's the first raid, and now you wait a few years before they put a new raid in. Hopefully they continue to pump out pieces of new encounters or new events for raids to tackle, and they kind of tie it into the story. I was talking about this on stream with Aurora Peachy and Jebro earlier today, that it would be really interesting if they tied it into the main storyline. Now, we all agreed that it should never replace the main storyline. There should not be like big, huge story reveals that take place in the raids, because that would segregate the base. Not everyone's going to be a raider. Not everybody's going to be able to beat this content if it's difficult and challenging. Not everybody's going to have the time to kind of make sure they're in a guild that actively does this stuff. So I still think that ArenaNet and Guild Wars 2 will make all of the story beats soloable, so that you can kind of experience that, because that's a big part of the Guild Wars 2 world. But it would be great if there was like tangents to the story that you accomplish during the raids. And the one example I kind of thought off the top of my head, like, what if you're going after a Mordremoth, but there's like this lieutenant dragon that is causing problems at the same time somewhere else, and during the Living World story instances, maybe a hero like Traherne or Bram or Rock says, hey, I'll go take a crack team and we'll go take out the lieutenant boss while you, the pack commander, can continue on and go after Mordremoth. And then, so you actually finish the story and do the whole Mordremoth thing, but there's this side mission that you never really hear about. Well, maybe the side mission is a raid, and so if you jump into the raid, maybe Bram or Rox or Traherne or whatever, kind of goes with you and your 10 members of this crack team, and you take out like the dragon lieutenant or something like that. I think things like that would be amazing, and like I said, it doesn't replace the story, it just kind of ties in tangentially, if that's a word. I don't think it is, but you know what I'm talking about. So that's super cool. Now, the important things about the rating, because, for anybody who's conjuring up images of rating in other games and stuff like that, there might be some concerns. And fear not, ArenaNet has definitely taken their spin on rating, and they kind of made it fit into their game. So first and foremost, there is no gear grind, right? You're not going to be jumping into these raids, beating these bosses, and expecting to get loot that's going to increase your power level. That's not how Guild Wars 2 works, and so you will never have this gear treadmill that you go through. Now, you're going to still be encouraged to have the best builds, to spec your character correctly, use the best sigils, the best runes, probably enhance your armor all the way up to the ascended level, and you still want to deck your character out as much as possible and learn how to play your class. But once you have that set, you can continue doing all of the raids, and it's going to be about coordinating with your group and cooperation and strategy and that kind of stuff, and then the actual execution of the fight. And what this does is it makes it so that none of the raid encounters become obsolete, because that's a common problem in a lot of games, right? In World of Warcraft, when the new expansion comes out, all the raids from the previous expansion, they become obsolete. They become too easy because your power level increases, and in fact, that's actually a game type in those games is, let's go see if we can solo, these bosses that used to take 20 or 25 or 40 people to beat, and it kind of just becomes like nostalgic like content like that, but it's no longer challenging. It's been trivialized. Well, using Guild Wars 2's way of handling this, none of that content will ever become obsolete. It'll always just be there, and it'll always be just as challenging, and you conquering that, or somebody conquering that today is going to be just as impressive as a team conquering it a year from now. So all of that content remains relevant for people who are working on unlocking certain rewards. Aha! So if there's no gear grind, why bother doing it? Well, that's a very good question there, Peter and Mary and Suzanne. I will answer that. It would be really cool if there was Peter, Mary, and Suzanne all watching. But the answer is they're going to be giving out different types of components that you will need to collect in order to craft a precursor or precursors for legendary armor. That's right, there's going to be 3 legendary armor sets, one for light, one for medium, one for heavy, that they're going to be introducing with Heart of Thorns. And the materials to craft those precursors come from raiding. So that is super exciting. Now, what are the legendary armors? We don't have what they look like or anything like that, but they're going to be the same stats as Ascended. All right, so they're not going to be more powerful than Ascended. The one advantage that they do have is that anytime you're out of combat, you can switch the stats on them. Whereas the Ascended gear, you can do that, but you have to actually go and put in materials to put out a recipe to kind of alter the stats on them. So there's a convenience aspect to it, and they probably look really cool. But I think that is so super cool that there's also, you want to see the content, you want to experience it, work together, and get that aha moment of working together and defeating a boss. But there's actual incentive in the game, and it's definitely in the Guild Wars 2 vein. It's a prestige, it's cosmetic, it's a little bit convenience, but it does not increase your power level. And I think people are going to go nuts over the fact that that this is in the game. They didn't even announce that at PAX Prime, which was funny. Because they put up a website right after the PAX Prime announcement, and it actually clearly spells out legendary armors and stuff like that. So it almost seems like the blog post and them talking about the legendary armor is going to be forthcoming, but they didn't realize that other site was going out. In any case, they should have announced it during the stream because people would have really freaked out over that. So I think this is super cool. So I love that incentive is in place, and I'm sure there's going to be like achievements and titles and different things that you can earn and various things like that. So that's why you kind of want to go in there. They also said there's going to be no attunement process. This was my problem with WildStar, is they tried to make it so hardcore that they only wanted people that went on this very, very long attunement process, and I quit in the middle of it, and I never got to step into a WildStar raid. It just was too much. They don't want you to wait to have fun. So there's no attunement process, and you also, because there's no Holy Trinity involved, you don't have to say, oh, we don't have enough healers tonight, cancel the raid. Everyone can go in, they can tweak their specs and their builds, and they can kind of fill in any gaps. Oh, we need somebody that's a little bit more tanky. Okay, I'll do that, and you can switch up your build, switch up your weapons, and things like that. So a group of 10 people should be able to kind of work together and tweak their builds together and figure out what they need to do to actually take on this boss. Now, in the trailer for the raid encounters, we see this tongue boss guy here, and he's got this move that Colin was describing that kind of, he channels some big kind of explosion thing, and any players that are kind of left on this platform are going to be blown to bits. So when this move starts charging up, everyone has to run to this like wind wall and they have to kind of attack it to tear a hole in it. And if everybody can successfully tear a hole and jump off the platform, then you're going to use your gliders to kind of swoop out, and eventually I guess you can catch an updraft, and then you can come back and dive bomb the boss. So this makes it apparent that they're going to be utilizing the mastery system in the raids. So, for example, this particular boss, it looks like you need to have gliding unlocked in order to participate in it. So in a way, that could be considered, I don't know the full details, but in a way that could be considered like kind of attunement-ish. If you actually need to have gliding in order to do this boss, maybe you don't, or maybe you only need to unlock the first tier of it, which would be very easy to do by the time that this wing comes out, since it's going to be several weeks. But it's interesting. I like hearing about the mechanics. I'm not going to get too excited about how it plays out or anything until I actually experience it in game. I remember very specifically them describing the Tequatl encounter before launch of the game, and with the cannons and stuff like that, before they even revamped it. And it sounded really cool with charging up the cannon and stuff like that. And then when I got into the game and played through it, it was kind of like, it was fun the first time, but subsequent times it wasn't as fun. So I'm going to withhold judgment of them describing mechanics like this, but just I think it's cool that they're integrating the mechanics of the mastery system in place. And they actually alluded to possibly there's other mastery lines and abilities that they haven't yet announced that are going to be relevant to raiding. So I could see them being stuff that you have to unlock in order to progress. So that should be pretty cool. In general, I am excited beyond belief for this. The proof's going to be in the pudding. We're going to have to see how it plays before we see how how long-term this is. But this was, from a player like me's perspective, this was what was desperately missing from Guild Wars 2. I log in every single week with my guild, and we play through guild missions, and those of you who follow my channel see the highlights and we have a great time doing it. But literally, it's like an hour to hour and 15 minutes every week, and then we basically don't see each other or play together much, or at least I don't see them or play with them much until the next following week. Now, sometimes afterwards, people will get a dungeon run together or some PvP, and that's all well and good, but it's going to be great to actually be jumping in and having other things to schedule during the week besides just guild missions. It's something that we can kind of work together to kind of accomplish. I'm super excited about that. Now, the one thing that, and this is no fault of how they designed it or anything like that. There's no real way around this. But one thing that's a little bit interesting to me as somebody who's like part of the officership in a guild, and I used to run and raid lead a guild in World of Warcraft years ago. What's interesting is right now when we do guild missions or we invite people to the guild, it's just a very open kind of policy. Like everybody who wants to be in guild missions can join us for guild missions that's in the guild, right? Because there's no cap to the number of people that can go. Everyone can jump into guild missions, and we don't have to do any kind of screening process, right? We don't care if you're lower level. We don't care if your gear's not maxed out. We don't care what spec you are, because guild missions is just it's a casual thing, and people, you can't really hurt the guild mission by being lower level or actually just being a brand new player and not really know what you're doing. It's just it's very easy to bring everyone along and I love that about Guild Wars 2. Having been a raid leader in the past before and having to kind of scrutinize new applicants based on their gear choices or their specs, and if there was underperforming players that couldn't physically defeat the encounters with us, you kind of have to kind of keep the group in mind, right? You have to you say, yeah, I feel bad for this one person, but there's 19 other people or 24 other people or 39 other people that I have to worry about their enjoyment too. We can't, if they're stopping us from being able to take out this content, you kind of have these tough choices that you have to make. That has never been something that I've had to do in Guild Wars 2, and it looks like that there's going to possibly be some of that in this. Having a 10-player instance, we have more than 10 players in our guild. It means that when we get together for it, we have to figure out some sort of system to figure out who gets to come to the raid tonight, who has to sit out. We have to make policies and kind of execute things. So there's things for guild leaders and officers out there that have to start figuring out these logistical problems about how they're going to do it. Are you going to have two? You're going to have multiple raiding groups. You're going to have 2 raiding groups, 3 raiding groups, or if you have a guild of 200 people, are you going to have 10 raiding groups? Do you have raid leaders for all of them? And what happens if people are underperforming or the same person dies every single time on this one fight in the same spot and you can't beat it because of them? So there's all those kind of issues and stuff that come along with this content. That's the side of it that I'm not looking forward to. Some of it's fun to kind of talk about the different policies. I love writing policies with guild dynamics and coming up with the best solutions and how to be fair and all that kind of stuff. That was always my forte back in the day, and I used to write policies in my corporate job as well, so it kind of fits that. So I enjoyed kind of that aspect a little bit, but the actual, talking to people where, there's situations where it's just not working out is not something I've had to do in Guild Wars 2 before, and I've always thought that was refreshing. But now we're going to have a little bit of an element of that. We'll see how that all plays out. I'm not going to put the cart before the horse, but it's just a potential thing for anyone out there who's running a guild or has a guild and are thinking about doing raiding that you might not anticipate. Like, what happens when there's 11 people that show up? What happens then? And so, yeah, I'm super excited. This was really what Guild Wars 2 needed. This is probably the thing I'm most excited about in the whole expansion. It beats Guild Halls. It beats the Elite Specializations for me. It pretty much, this is the reason for me to really be excited for Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns. And I can't wait. Well, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Are you excited about raiding? Do you have any questions? Have you never raided before? Is there anything, like, I kind of talked about a bunch of things here, assuming that folks were familiar with raiding. But if you've never done that before and you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe so you can be notified when future videos are released. Also, before you go, Heart of Thorns expansion is on sale. You can pre-purchase it to get into the beta weekend. The next beta weekend is next weekend, and you can play some of the new Elite Specializations like the Berserker and the Daredevil. If you're going to upgrade your account to a Heart of Thorns, there is a link in the description. That's my referral link. If you use that link, it does not cost you anything else, and it actually directly supports me, and I would truly appreciate it. I hope everybody has a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. Take care.